It says, I'm still waiting. Is it up?
We have to lure them.
It is live there? I don't see it live here, but I'll have to trust you. Hold on one second. It says scheduled for 7:30.
So this is like a private.
That's my team, that's me and my buddies.
Let me just refresh it.
Every week, somebody's.
Cup's always a lock for. Giants defense is a good pick this year.
All right, we're live.
Kelsey's always a lock.
Yeah, Ronnie, you want to kick this off?
I'm sorry?
Let's kick it off.
Okay. Good evening. This is the October 3rd
Thank you, Richard.
Board of Trustees public hearing and meeting. Mayor, would you like to begin the pledge of allegiance and lead us?
I think I will lead this. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, right now I'd like to ask for a motion to go into,
Before, do we have a stenographer?
yes,
Okay, just want to make sure.
we do. Hi, Mark. A motion to go into, open our public hearing portion of our meeting.
I'll make the motion.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, Mr. Harrington, all in favor?
Aye.
First public hearing is introducing proposed local law O of the year 2022, reducing the village speed limit to 25 miles per hour. Do you want to talk about that?
Before we start, just for the record, we're not going to be voting on any of these issues tonight due to some miscommunication on some board actions. So we're going to hold all three of these public hearings over till next month's meeting.
Well, yeah, but we could discuss it.
But we're still going to discuss it anyway. Just want to make that
Just wanted to make sure you understood.
disclaimer. Yes. I think as I mentioned last month, 25 miles an hour, it's a lot safer than the current 30. A lot of our, actually none of our streets have sidewalks. All the kids are walking. The people are walking their pets, their joggers, kids on bikes and skateboards and scooters. And I think it makes a lot of sense to lower the speed limit in order to keep everybody safe. Any of my board members have any questions?
I just would like to add just explanation. Up until probably just a couple of weeks ago, every village had to follow New York State's speed limit of 30 miles per hour. However, Governor Hochul passed legislation whereby a village could lower their speed limit based on the results of a traffic study performed by a qualified traffic engineer. The village had recently done a traffic study, and we spoke to our traffic engineering firm, Nelson & Pope. And because of the work that they did, they were able to scientifically show that 25 mile per hour speed limit would indeed be appropriate for the village.
Correct.
So,
And we agreed for Stonytown.
I think we're going to do it for all of our streets, including Stonytown, specifically because we have the walking and jogging path. And I think that would help keep those runners and walkers safe. Do you have any questions?
If they use it.
If they use what?
Well, it's like every morning I take Stonytown, and when you get past Manhasset Woods Road, you go around that turn, there's always runners, because I guess runners like to run again,
Right.
against traffic.
Yes.
And they come around that turn, and it's really, it's really
Well,
dangerous.
So at 25 miles an hour, they have a better chance of stopping
Right.
than at 30. Anybody else have any questions? Anybody from the public? That being no, I will make a motion to continue local law O to the November 7th board meeting. Do I have a second?
I'll second. Okay, I have trustee Denise.
That would be,
All right.
Next on our agenda,
actually, that was trustee
No, it
Dorfman
was Dorfman.
who made the second.
November 7th. Okay, this
Wait,
hearing will be
Ronnie.
continued.
It was
It was Claire.
Claire.
I'm sorry. Second by trustee Dorfman, all in favor?
Aye.
Next is consider proposed local law P of the year 2022. Amending chapter 36 entitled Records, Article 3, replacing what was termed MU1, which is the list of documents that every village has and the retention period for each of those documents. New York State Archives have replaced that with something called LGS1. So this is a real technicality kind of thing, but we need to amend the code to reflect the latest version of the record retention manual used by villages.
Anybody on the board have any questions on this? Nope. Anybody from the public? That being said, I will make a motion to adjourn this until the November 7th public hearing.
Okay.
Board of Trustees meeting.
Second, trustee Franco, all in favor?
Aye.
And finally, we have proposed local law Q of the year 2022, amending chapter 219, entitled Trees, Shrubs, and Grass, and this would prohibit tree removal work on Saturdays.
So we brought this up, or I brought this up last month, and further explanation is in speaking with some people at other villages and code enforcement people, their experience has been that many times trees that are removed without a permit happen on the weekends because people feel that there's less enforcement on weekends and that's a way they can try to sneak something in. Also, I think the no Saturday landscaping law that we passed about 2 years ago has been very successful and very well received. And I think that people really enjoy their quiet on Saturdays. And instead of having a loud, noisy set of buzzing chainsaws and stump grinders going on next door on Saturday or Sunday, it'd be good to ban this. In the case of an emergency or other types of urgency, we would allow the village administrator to approve Saturday work if it's necessary. So this way, if somebody really does need something done, we can make sure that they have those things in place. Any questions from the board?
I guess the question I have is, I know, I'm trying to remember what it was, but we made a exception. I'm just trying to define how do we think, what is a special circumstance here? And I think in the past we've said hey, if a resident works and can't be there during the week, and if the contractor, they want to be there when the work is done, right? Should that be done on Saturday? Is that a valid reason? I think that would be good if there are conflicts, depending on the work, can be involved.
I think we could leave that up to the discretion of the village administrator to deal with. I mean, I understand this as working people, you want to be there when your contractor's doing things. On the other hand, you just want to make sure it's not all of a sudden that's the day that tree companies decide to do work on Saturdays in Flower Hill.
Yeah, I think if it's getting abused, we revisit it, but I think giving people that flexibility would be.
Yeah, well, that's why it's leave it up to the village administrator to deal with. I think that's something Ronnie could easily screen. And listen, I'm all for making sure they have permits, but a lot of times these things happen on the weekends when there's no one, there's people around, but not as much as during the week to ensure compliance. That's all.
I just want to note that the way I wrote this law was that I included Saturdays and Sundays, so that although we don't permit any work on Sundays, in the event that somebody was taking down a tree on Sunday, I thought putting it under the chapter of grass, trees, it would be easier for the code enforcer or whoever was writing the ticket to find, and it just made more sense than going back into the property maintenance portion of code. So it's actually going to be in two places, but I think putting Saturday and Sunday together just makes more sense.
Excellent.
Is there no fine or anything associated with this?
How would the fines work, Ronnie?
I'm sorry, I couldn't.
Fines was the question.
Well, the maximum fine would be up to $5,000. Generally, they begin at $250.
Oh, okay. So
It's quite a.
And our fines actually have to do, I believe, with the diameter of the tree.
No,
Well, that would be
Sorry,
tree
That-
removal
this- No,
without
I'm
a
saying,
permit.
is there a fine associated with doing the work?
Oh,
I mean, in other words, what,
We have-
are we fining people for doing loud landscaping work on a Saturday?
Yeah, we would.
Okay.
Oh, turn Mary Jo's thing around. She would have said, who spun it? Gary. Sorry, Mary Jo.
And would a similar case be made for this statute?
Well, I think we should probably follow the same fine schedule that we do for landscaping on Saturdays, correct? Would that make sense, Ronnie, for this?
Well, okay, if their tree is being removed without a permit, that's like a very hefty fine that is determined by the girth of the
Let's only
tree.
talk about
But
this
the
thing.
work, but so there would actually be 2 tickets being written.
Right.
Okay, so one would be for tree removal without a permit, the other would be for no Saturday tree removal. And,
I guess the
you're
point
right,
is,
it would be similar to work, it would be the same as a landscaper working on a Saturday, yeah,
what if I
yeah.
dumbly didn't know this law and I got a permit, but I did it on a Saturday? How would I be treated?
Yeah, you'd probably be given a warning.
Yeah,
Probably.
okay.
But like anything, it would be, the fine would be up to the $500 that the current landscapers would be fined. But it's up to the court to assess the actual penalty.
You know, when next year, when we go out to, when we send out the renewals for the landscape licenses, this will be added to the list of rules that they must obey. So, you know, I would think that after next year, you know, we should expect compliance.
But
This
anybody
year,
who's,
since it's not really published anywhere, we would just,
but anybody who's
Give a warning.
applying for a tree permit, we're gonna put this on the tree permit application anyway. So as soon as this local law gets passed,
Right.
we'll put it on that.
So
So
we should get compliance out of the people who are doing it through the system, and we just are really trying to catch the people who are kind of skirting around them.
that would be ideal, yes. And to maintain this quietness on weekends.
My other question is, the way this is written, it doesn't seem to make any exceptions for a homeowner cutting down their own tree. So I think in the past, we've had these just apply to commercial operations on weekends, because otherwise it's gonna force a resident who does their own tree work to take off a day and do it during the week. So I think we just want this to apply to commercial people.
I think-
the other thing I'm thinking is that if a resident is going to take down a tree, it's probably going to be the girth of which a permit was not even required.
You never know though, but you know what? Let's
I mean,
let's
okay, that's somebody coming with that.
we just changed the word to no commercial, however we want to say
Yeah.
commercial.
Yeah,
That's easy to
yeah.
change for next
No
month. I think that's a good point.
That's George Washington calls.
I mean, I just hope people don't get the wrong idea, you know, start chopping down trees with chainsaws and axes.
Could happen.
I use a chainsaw, I use an axe.
I have both.
Don't-
I've been known to use it on many
See?
occasions.
Excuse me, Mr. Blinkoff
Oh.
I just saw.
Yes, sir.
Consider.
I do just want to clarify, because there was a discussion of penalties. And I just wanted to make sure that we include the penalties the way the board wants them to be included. The way, if we're adding this to section 219-13, then the penalties for offenses would still be as written under 219-12. And those are the same as if you're removing a tree without a permit. So the costs would be the same. So in other words, if somebody pulls down a tree on a Saturday, even if they have a permit, the way this is written, they would pay the same amount as though they were removing a tree without a permit. It doesn't have to remain that way. We could change the penalty.
Can you change this for us then?
Sure.
Yes.
Yeah, so it would be penalties, and it would be yes per
Because
chapter.
if you have,
Article 1 of
if
the
you,
code.
if you
Article
have
1,
a
yeah.
permit and you're trying to cut down a tree on Saturday with a permit, I don't want the $5,000 to $7,500 fines to befall a resident. That would not be.
Right, I
Just.
thought the board thought that was, so we can amend it as long as we're making it clear as to who it will apply. We can include a different provision for penalties as well.
Okay. If you can guide Ronnie in that, and this way
Yeah.
we'll have it on our desks before the next public hearing. Anybody from the public have any questions, comments? That being said, I'd like to make a motion for local law Q amend Chapter 219, no tree removal on Saturdays and Sundays, to the November 7th Board of Trustee meeting.
Do I have a second? Trustee Lewandowski, all in favor?
Aye.
And a motion to close the public hearing.
Oh, I'll make that motion, please. And Frank seconds it.
I second it.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye. Let's start with public comment. Anybody have anything to ask, state? Nothing?
Sir, what are you here for?
Tree removal commission.
Oh, are you on the,
Come on up.
yeah, you might, if you're not on the agenda, you can speak now.
Oh, I sent an email already. I wasn't sure if, I think Heather told me that. If I just speak at the podium.
Sure. Tell us who you are, where you live.
Casey Sussman, 50 Sycamore Drive.
I'm sorry, which
50 Sycamore Drive.
50 Sycamore.
Pretty relatively new to the neighborhood. Moved in early July. Nice to meet everyone.
I live right around the block from you.
I know you
I haven't-
offered my toddler a job, for $10 an hour to water your flowers.
Oh, that's right, that was your daughter.
Yeah.
They didn't come and water
$10
my
an
flowers.
hour.
Well,
Wow.
Yeah, I need the
inflation,
flowers
I thought,
watered.
you know,
That's pretty good.
I'm sorry.
For a better deal.
I think it's a pretty good deal, $10 an hour.
It works, it's pretty competitive. But as for, so we, I think last week we applied for an application to remove a really large tree that's very close to our house within 10 feet. I think Anne, who's the village arborist, came to take a look at the tree. I think she kind of diagnosed that she felt the tree was healthy and that in fact it wasn't splitting. Instead, she viewed it as like two trees next to each other. I've had second opinions from other arborist tree companies, so I know have an agenda to want to cut down trees. But it seems like they both seem to think that the tree is like splitting. My wife and I were very pro-tree. We like trees a lot. For us, it's not an aesthetic thing. It's more just a safety concern. It's a really large tree that is very close to our house. It like is directly above like where our children sleep. And you know, if a tree falls, like a house can be replaced. Insurance, not a big deal, but we're just really concerned. Like God forbid a big storm, like we have, like it could just make us feel very unsafe and very uncomfortable. And so I'm here to just kind of appeal Anne's decision.
Okay, if you go towards the end of your packet, you'll see this drawing.
Oh, it is, good. I was just
Okay, this
passing it
was,
around.
Do we have any?
Anne Frankel, our arborist, did go to see the tree. And she, in her opinion, she wrote, this very large tree has co-dominant trunks. The tree has 3 or 4 small dead branches I recommend having pruned. Otherwise, the tree is stable, no removal necessary.
So you mentioned having other arborists look at it. Did you get a report from any of them or?
I did not get a report. I have just two different tree companies. One was North Shore Tree, and another one I think was Bear Tree, based in Port Washington.
So are they tree companies or
Yeah.
certified arborists? Because a tree company will tell you anything you want to hear because they want to cut your tree down to make the money.
Well, I do know that Bear does have a licensed arborist.
But the question is, did the person who came to Mr.
That I can
Sussman's,
say.
that's why I'm asking the question. So
I cannot confirm or deny.
I would recommend that before we take any action on this, is I trust Anne implicitly for the work that she does. And if she states that the tree is safe, I usually try to agree with her. But if you can get us reports from a certified arborist that contradicts what she said, we can certainly look at it.
Do we want a report from an independent arborist who's not affiliated with the tree removal company?
I have somebody that I was just saying to Gary, our property by North Hempstead, huge trees, we've lost power. And I understand what you're talking about, some of these very big trees, and it is dangerous, no matter what you say. When we had that storm Sandy and you go along Park Avenue, there were many trees that were in fact down. So, but it doesn't have to be dead, but maybe if you have somebody else look at it as opposed to a tree company, I'd be willing. We've used this man for years and, he's not. he's not motivated by wanting to make money to take down trees. He,
Did we stop Rich getting
Well, yeah, we also have somebody, Rich Gibney, but I think we should give him the opportunity of, a few resources to see.
Yeah, even if the
Give them the best
arborist,
price.
even
I get
if
it.
the
I don't
arborist
think
said
we
it
can
was
afford
like
to
the
just say
healthiest
no.
tree in the
Yeah, I think
world,
that's a good idea.
like, there's no there's just no guarantees. Like, if the arborist could 100% guarantee me that that tree will never fall and put anyone in danger, then I'm fully.
Yeah, but you're not,
comfortable
you're not gonna, like, we wouldn't have trees anywhere in the village then, right? Like, everybody would want, if you want 100% safety in your yard, like, I don't know how you get that, you know?
Well, I think like,
Yeah, I think-
people plant trees too. It's not a question if I can move the tree 20 feet away from the house, I would certainly want to do that. It's more just like, it's very close, growing like within 10 feet of the house. It's a really big tree. And so if it was a small tree that wasn't as mature, I wouldn't be standing here. It's just like, arborists can tell me that it's healthy, but when there's like a windstorm and that thing is shaking, like, I'm sorry, that makes us feel very uncomfortable. And so like, I'm happy to bring an arborist in to support it, but
I think the idea of pruning the tree, you need to look into that, because that could alleviate some of the fear of a big tree coming down. When you have such a big crown on a tree that doesn't let the wind pass through, that can contribute to a problem. But even if it's a healthy tree, obviously if it's hurricane force, right? But if it allows the wind to pass through it, through pruning, then it's less likely to have enough force on it to take it down. So I think that would be one option to look at and consider in this, if it's a healthy tree.
yeah, no, we could certainly do that. And if it's like, I'm just curious, like, I'd be happy to plant 2 trees, 3 trees, to make up the difference that are just still on my property, just further away from the house. If there's any kind of opportunity to kind of help facilitate growing more trees in the community, also happy to do that. It's just proximity to where we sleep is really like the thing that kind of keeps us up at night.
So why don't you get us an independent arborist's opinion on this?
Okay.
And next time I see you and your daughter comes to water my plants, let me come see your tree. I don't know the tree because it's in the backyard. So let me come look at it, and any of the board members that want to come look at it. I guess you're more than welcome to stop on by.
And I would say that, is it on the, what side of the road are you on, the north side or the south side?
He would be on the north
South
side.
side. No, north side.
You're on the north side.
Sorry, north
So
side.
it's on the north side of your, okay, so it's giving shade to your backyard, but not necessarily to your house.
We have provide shade to the house, but also drops a lot of stuff on the roof, but that's a good point. We have another big tree that we're not touching, it's fine, it's further away by the shed. We did have someone come like prune it and top it in the interim, just to kind of like give us peace of mind. Because Anne didn't approve removing it, so we just had it like topped. But yeah, we certainly would like the opportunity to just kind of remove it and plant like 3 more trees.
If there's, if there's a way to preserve the tree, I think that would be my preference, to preserve it in some way where you feel comfortable.
Would be mine.
So, yeah, I think that's the
So
way to
let's
handle
start the
it.
next step with an arborist,
Okay.
an independent arborist. And if
There's no other way.
they may or may not agree with what Ann's saying, and we'll take it from there. And we'll see what the arborist says for next month's meeting, and then we can put our heads together and try to find a solution, depending on what the arborist says.
Okay.
Trustee Thomas, what's the name of your arborist? We'll just give you some names.
I was just gonna ask who pays for it. I know the,
I'm sorry, what?
I was gonna ask who pays for the independent arborist, but I think I know the answer.
Oh, you do?
Yes.
Of course you do.
Yes.
What's the name of your?
Russ Jackal.
Oh, I know him. Oh, he's great. What's his last name again?
Jackal.
I don't have his
JAC.
contact. My husband has his contact. I'll give it to you though.
All right, I'm not gonna be around till Friday, but you know what? Make sure I have your. Suspency at Gmail?
Correct.
Okay. I will send you 2 contacts.
Okay.
And if you can find anybody, that absolutely, you know, I'm sure you
I
can
can
do
go
it.
find someone, but if you want an independent person that's not recommended by my tree guy, so it's not
I
biased,
think it would be better for
do
this
that.
board if it was someone who didn't have financial interest in taking the tree.
Yeah, and take their trees. Like the
So
2
we'll
people
go
we
with-
know don't have tree companies.
That's okay.
Right.
Yeah, no, I'm totally fine with bringing an independent person in.
Alrighty, thank you for coming in, and I'll see you
Can I
around the
stay?
block.
Yeah,
You can stay, of course.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Comments, I mean? If the answer is no, then let's go to the approval of the minutes.
Anyone here? Do I have a motion?
Hold on, Ronnie, 1 second. Oh, wait, are you going, we gotta get out of the public hearing section.
Oh, no, we're out of the public.
No, we did
Is there
already.
public comment?
Yeah, that was,
Yeah.
the
Oh,
mayor,
yeah, I'm
right,
sorry.
closed it.
2 seconds.
Okay, so, do we have a motion to approve the minutes of the September 12th, 2022 Board of Trustees meeting? I apologize, the minutes were quite long.
In the future, if we have issues.
Let's not approve these
No, no,
minutes.
I'll read it out right now.
Oh, okay. Oh, you have what you want written?
Yeah.
Okay. Trustee Harrington wanted something added to the minutes that was omitted. But
Yeah.
if he reads it in now to the record, then you could add it in,
Okay,
and then we'll approve it accordingly. Thank you.
So I just want to put a notation, because there's nothing about the public comment period, and we did have Mr. Young speak during that period. So I'd like to just add that a notation that Mr. Young spoke during that period. He was here to complain about a neighbor's pruning of a tree. And that after that period, that after his 3-minute comment period, he continued to, I guess, interrupt the board in the meeting. He was reminded about the rules of decorum in the meeting, and that during the public comment period, you're limited to 3 minutes. And after violating that, he walked out of the meeting. I think it's important that we note this for whatever, future actions we may have to take in the village, just to enforce the rules of the meetings, whether it be for him or somebody else.
Good one.
And for the record, now in the back of the room, we have the guidelines for public comment. I have now prominently posted them, so if anyone has any questions, they'll be always in the back of the room.
So do we have to take a motion on that, Ronnie,
Well,
or?
because I haven't written it into the minutes, maybe we should just kind of put
Okay,
it for approval till
I'll
1
send it
November.
to you.
And
we
then you
can-
can, and just in case I don't express it correctly,
Okay,
okay, I would be more comfortable with that.
All right.
Sorry, everybody.
So we won't be approving the meeting minutes until the November meeting. Do we vote on that? This has never happened before.
no, just take no action.
Honestly, minutes do not have to be approved, there's nothing in state law that says they do.
Okay.
And minutes are really only supposed to reflect the actions taken during the meeting. So, basically, it doesn't have to include very much, only votes.
Okay.
But, we like to have a nice record of what actually happened.
Did everyone have a chance to read over the claims? As always, I did. I pulled all the bills and looked them all over, and there was nothing in it that was out of the ordinary that needed any extra explanation. So I'd like to make a motion to approve the claims. And I know Max, if he approves, will be recusing himself from the art of landscaping. Do I have a second? I'm making the motion. Sorry, does anyone want to second it?
I'll second.
That's, Mr. Harrington,
Yes.
all in favor?
All right.
Okay. Next, under treasurer's report, we would like to ask for a motion to approve transfer of $500,000 from the general fund to the New York class account, which is now paying out at almost 3%. So, yay.
So for those who aren't familiar, we moved about 200,000? Sorry, 100,000 into night class.
I think it was July,
A few, right.
and since July, we've made about maybe close to $400.
Okay. which is better than the 1% we would have gotten had we kept the money in the other investment account that we have access to.
Like all the rest of us.
I know. So I don't see any reason not to approve this transfer. To make more money for the village.
Yeah.
It's 100 versus 500, so obviously we'll take that $400 times
Somebody like to offer that motion?
$2,000.
So just remind me, this is very liquid, so if we needed the money, you can get it out when?
Put it in tomorrow, take it out the next day.
And that's the nice thing about it, it's like a bank account with this firm, but you can, like I said, you can easily access it and put it back into our own account.
So it's like a money market, right?
It's like a,
A money market.
Right, totally liquid.
Yeah, that's fine. You know, I would never,
which is the
Mary
advantage.
Jo, I would
of
never
it,
want to
because
tie us
obviously
into
you don't wanna
anything
lock up the money
that
if
wasn't
you
legal.
need it for other, emergency. So,
all right, if there's no questions on that, I will make the motion to approve the transfer.
Can I get a second?
I'll second.
Trustee Frankel is second, all in favor?
Aye.
And the one other item that's not on the agenda just came up. We received the draft audit from our auditors, last week. And, yeah, and I read it and the mayor went through it as well. The mayor signed off and approved it. But our auditors are asking that the board approve the mayor's findings, that he was in agreement with the audit.
But if they don't have a copy of this, how can
No, I
So-
will actually email that to you. You'll email it to the board tomorrow?
I can email it tomorrow, and then they're gonna, obviously, they'll make.
Yeah, they're gonna
down
print out, and then they're
copies.
they? Send us printed copies,
So-
which, everybody will get in their
Can we
box.
wait to approve this till
Yeah,
November, till the board
we have
reads
to,
this
right?
then?
I don't see why
Yeah, I
not.
don't see why
Okay,
not.
then let's move this to November, because I don't want
Okay.
anybody approving something they didn't have a chance to.
Yeah, I know, just actually, I asked them to approve what you found, so.
Yeah, and there was just some minor, they asked us to very minor stuff. They asked us to change one or two little policies around, which we'll get around to
Yeah,
doing.
we'll do it.
It's minor stuff similar to what they found in the past, nothing that's of any concern other than dotting some i's and crossing some
Okay,
t's.
no problem. Building superintendent's report, do we have anything new? Or is going on as
Well,
it should?
he would be Public Works.
That's what I say?
Yes, Peter, there is no building superintendent's
No,
report
it's like,
because
There is no
I believe there was no.
Yeah, so the reason there's no building superintendent's report is that there was no ARC meeting this month.
Right. So that's why I have no report,
I'm
and
sorry.
there's
Public
no-
Works.
there's no report from Steve either. So now we're up to Rich.
Just to let you know that, I spoke with our village engineer today. The road contracting company that we use, McGowan, has received the punch list. They'll be getting back to us shortly, to let us know when all the, items on the punch list will be addressed, and then we'll be done. The work was superb.
Excellent.
My report.
Rich, you have nothing? Actually, I want to thank you for two things. One, thank you for prepping for winter already. Rich has already started getting the trucks ready, the snow blowers already prepped, and it's in the front of the garage. And he's getting all the machinery ready ahead of time. Salt is going to be ordered soon. So, I mean, after a day like today, you almost think it's going to snow. But we are ready. If the snow does come early this year, Rich has all the equipment ready. The big truck is actually in the shop right now. Needs a brake overhaul or something.
Something froze on that new truck, and it is under warranty, so.
Right.
It will be covered at least that part. The only thing we had to pay really is the tow.
Can I thank Rich also for clearing the bus stop on Homewood?
Oh, quick on
Thank you.
Chestnut, no problem,
That makes very happy residents, Rich, thank you.
no problem.
And also want to thank you for starting that test planting you did on Middle Neck Road. I don't know if anyone's noticed, but closer to Paul Scaff's house on Middle Neck Road, there, Rich did a whole hosta garden and some other plants and with pea gravel around it, just as a test, because that's like a very slopey part, and we have a lot of steep slopes on Middle Neck Road. So if we're looking to improvements, Rich did a little test planting there, let it go through the winter and see how it lasts with the pea gravel and what he planted. And I think you're going to do one other planting a little further south, but without the gravel, just to see how things last the winter because of the plow, because of the salt, and all that other good stuff. So before we go crazy on the boulevard, if we go crazy on Middle Neck Road, we want to see what's going to last and not going to last. So thank you, Rich.
Are we okay on the sand and salt contract? I can't recall. Did we
Yeah,
renew?
and that you set it up already.
We did, right, okay.
And you said it, we're all good.
Okay, good. Yeah, just so the board's information, we buy our sands and salt off of the state, New York State contract at very, very favorable prices. Okay, so we are still working on, transferring all of our information from, our current building program to our new building program in Unicity. I want to thank Heather, for working so hard in putting all the data together. It was very labor intensive. I know I worked on it with her, and so did Peter, but she did the bulk of the work. And we have completed phase 1 implementation, and now it's in their hands and they're putting it together. We gave them all of our forms and letters and all of our applications that they will incorporate into this program. Looking forward to it. It should be awesome. That's the good news.
What's the goal date to get all this done?
I'm thinking like spring. They
Spring.
told us 8 months.
Yeah, I think it was
when we first
April.
Started.
Okay. And we're on schedule then.
We're on schedule on our end, yeah.
Okay.
So hopefully they'll continue to be on schedule. I did hear from other villages that, that they've been having some delays with them because they're so busy. But so far, so good for us.
Right.
The bad news is that we will need a document management system to make this work. I read through the proposal probably 3 or 4 times. I believed that it was included. After talking with the people from General Code and Unicity, they pointed out, no, it was not included in what the board had approved. I put together a chart to show what our options are. Oh, here it is, okay. And it's right after the plans. So I compared 2 different document management systems. One is Laserfish, which is owned by General Code and Unicity, and the other is Cloud Paper Vision, very similar, does all of the same things. Laserfish will give us more users at a lesser cost, and I like the fact that they are owned by General Code and Unicity, so there is kind of like an overlap in all of the transfer of documents. So it would cost us right now, it would cost us an additional $6,100. After that, our annual renewal would be $5,000 a year. This would also allow us to put all of our records into the system and therefore in the cloud and promote paperless office. So we do have quite a bit of money still in our ARPA account, which is where we paid for the rest of the this project from. So I'd like to ask for approval to enter into a contract to purchase the Laserfish.
So
How do we not know?
I'm not too techy. I mean, I try, but I know, Randall and Brian were reading it, we're looking at it also, and I don't know how I got confused thinking that it was included.
How much is it?
Yeah, it's,
It's $6,100 to start and then $5,000 a year.
would have liked to have known about it up front. Something we should have picked up on, so apologies to the board for that.
I kind of remember, though, having this conversation,
Yeah,
that this was supposed to have been included. And from my understanding, it was supposed to be included. So I guess somehow there was some miscommunication between Unicity and us that it wasn't there, because I know Brian and I did bring it up at some point in our conversations with the software company. So I'm still a little concerned. Is this something we have to approve this month?
Well, I mean, it's not, Unicity is not going to work without having our building permits, which were already scanned, accessible through the Laserfish interface
Right.
or, the Crowd Paperfish interface.
But since you said this isn't going live until spring of 2023,
Yeah,
am I
we have
paying-
time. We
but
don't
am
have to.
am I going to start paying for this now when I don't need
That
it?
makes sense.
I'm not so worried about the 400 a month for the renewal. It's just the 6,100. That's all annoying.
I mean, this is something that has always been on my wish list.
It's $11,000
As, my goal towards making the whole office paperless.
That's the second year.
Oh,
So
second year.
it's the second year's the 5,000. The first year's 61.
So this is not something where municipality wasn't clear, was it? Could it be
It was
blamed
my
on them?
understanding.
Like, I mean, honestly, so if you're looking to now use them because as continuity, but is it their, if they've done this with all these other villages, we're neophytes to this, right? Nobody's an expert in this. So why would they have not, when you buy anything, why would they have not made it clear? Like if you're explaining something that's, I think it should have been incumbent on them to say, do you understand that what you're getting is X? It's not gonna work without Y. It didn't, I don't know, I wasn't there, but it doesn't sound like.
Yeah, I mean,
That-
the problem was that the villages that I had been talking to, who were, going into municipality, had already had the Laserfish.
Yeah, but why
Previous.
didn't,
So
why didn't the company make it clear to you and to us?
I agreed.
I mean, more than agree, I think to me, that's a big, I mean, all right, maybe it's $400, but that's a big deal. I think, why didn't they make it clear to us? That this was not gonna work without this, so the cost wasn't really what we thought it was, it's really this. And now you have no choice but to do this, because otherwise we've thrown money, that we can't use the system without this, but it just seems kind of strange. And as Randall and Brian said, maybe it was included and now they're backtracking. I mean, I don't know. It just
That's why I don't think. we
sounds
have
a
to-
little fishy.
When Ronnie mentioned this a couple of weeks ago, I was really shocked.
Maybe that's the attitude we take with them. Like, just like you just said, you know what? Like all of a sudden now we bought this from you and now you tell us that it won't work without the second.
And, again, none of us are experts in
We're not-
Ronnie,
we're not-
I'm not
business.
pointing the finger. I'm
I
just
know.
trying to backtrack and say, how do we perhaps use this as leverage? All of a sudden now, okay, we've got this, we paid for this in good faith, we did our background, but guess what? It's useless without us paying this extra fee. It's worth it, as Randall said, maybe we don't need to do this tonight, and maybe there's more work to be done, so maybe we
Yeah,
have
and maybe
some
we could
leverage.
get some kind of a discount.
That's-
Did this happen with any other villages that you spoke to, or are we?
They already have, like Baxter Estates has this, they already have the micro, they already had it.
So what
Yeah,
happens?
they're already paying this.
No, they already own this.
Other villages have done. They've digitized their records first, then went to an online system. We're doing the online system and
Digitized at the same time.
digitizing. So we did it in opposite direction. They kind of did it, even though actually we're doing it at the same time. So I
Wow.
take that back.
But
Yeah,
they
I
should
mean,
still have
everybody
this
was kind of like the
monthly
last
fee
of
or
the
the annual fee.
non-publicans by not
Yeah.
having our file scanned, everybody else.
But does it
state
depend on the
and
size
everything.
of the, like would Baxter Estates be cheaper because it's a smaller village and they have less?
No, they base it on
December
users. They base it on users.
Oh, Chris.
Yeah, maybe I will. That's an idea.
Just ask
See what she has to say.
Yeah.
All right, so let's table this to next month because we don't
Let me
have
tell you,
to.
if there's negotiating room, she did it.
Yeah.
'Cause it's-
Probably.
I know her well.
Yeah.
So she,
And-
and she'd be willing to help out.
Okay, so this is gonna be tabled.
This is tabled.
The next thing is that our financial software is still on the server. We asked for an estimate to get it put into on the cloud. And the company KBS, which is over in Springbrook, told us that it would be $70,000.
So just, all right, let me set this up a little bit.
Yeah.
So our accounting software system is still on the server here, and we all agreed that we didn't want to upgrade the server because A, we wanted to be in the cloud, and B, we didn't want to invest a lot of money on a large server for when we want to be on the cloud, which is why we're moving our building software over to Municity, because we don't want to be stuck on a piece of hardware. However, the server is starting to show its age, and it got a little finicky recently, and then they gave it a little CPR, and now it's kind of back to life. So we're looking at a couple options. One, what if we totally put the system in the cloud? And the numbers we got back from KVS are ridiculous. So it's just money we didn't budget for, and it's something I wouldn't want us to do. Two other options is one, we buy a new server. We haven't even gotten that far, and I believe it'd be not that expensive to. Rich is going to throw a number at me if I look at him.
Server,
Yeah,
5,000-6,000.
and some money to have it spun up. So that's a possibility. Or the other option Total is looking at right now, our service provider, our IT service provider, is doing a virtual server. Is that the proper terminology for it? And they're going to see if they can actually take what we have and put it in the cloud. So we have a virtual server instead of relying on a server in the closet over there that's needs TLC every so often. So we're looking at that. We're also, I've asked Ronnie, I've tasked her to look at other financial software options, because I don't understand how other small villages like us would pay that much money for an accounting software system.
I have to tell you that I did speak to quite a few villages during the week about this, last week about this, and they're all in the same boat. They're all either on a server or using, what's that program that everybody uses?
QuickBooks?
QuickBooks.
I don't think we want to use QuickBooks.
We don't want to use QuickBooks. Or some of the bigger villages, like, or cities like Long Beach, they've bitten the bullet and gone for them, But the other financial software companies, which there's probably about a half a dozen specialize in government finances, are all up there. There's no bargains to be had.
Well, but you haven't got us quotes yet.
But
That's
I haven't
that's
got-
just,
yeah,
that's
but
just
I'm
a
like,
conversation.
I would
Use
say
other-
let's put it out for
other
RFP and see what we get, you know,
That's a good idea.
Okay.
or doesn't even have to be an RFP, but, an RF.
Yeah,
At the same time, we're going to get Total to give us a quote on spinning up a new server, because I'd rather spend $5,000
Yeah.
versus $75,000. And they're also getting us a quote, I guess, they're getting us a quote on putting it on a
into the
virtual,
cloud, yeah,
putting a virtual server on.
which
So
would be the best solution.
hopefully we'll have something from Total very shortly, and then we can make a decision. Hopefully by the next board meeting.
Of the options that you put out, which I'm not sure if they're still valid or not, but are there relative merits to security on the different? I think we want to factor that into.
Like a ransomware attack or.
Well,
Are there
speaking of
benefits?
somebody who's had a ransomware attack, somehow it's safer if you're in the cloud than if you're in, because when we got hit, we're in the cloud now, but when we got hit, there's no backup, there's no nothing. At least in the cloud, you have some resources that can help you out in these type of situations. So, and especially some of the newer ones now are protected, they have redundancy, so if you
I
get,
will ask that question of Total when
Yeah.
they give us those two options.
because they're going after small government and municipalities, and
Yeah,
so,
I read that article on Newsday. Yep. I think Suffolk County got
yeah, Suffolk County
a
got
lot of
it.
issues. So I'll have something hopefully to report back at the next board meeting. This just kind of snuck up on us last week.
Okay, and finally, the Landmark Commission is going to be meeting again this Thursday at 5 PM here at Village Hall. This side.
I'd like to thank you, Mitchell. I'd like to thank Rhoda, and I'd like to thank Mrs. Goldman. So thank you guys very much for volunteering your time. Attorney's report.
Yes, there was one matter that came before ZBA last month. It was 160 Mason Drive. There was an application really for the inclusion of surrounding recreational items in support of an existing swimming pool. While there were 6 variances initially requested, 2 of them were withdrawn, and the remaining variances the board felt were de minimis in that they would not have an impact on the surrounding neighborhood. The pool area was permitted to be 3% higher than normal. There was a grant for a rear yard setback for an accessory building of less than 2 feet. There was a separate side yard setback of less than 1 foot that was permitted. And for a patio, the board allowed that to have, to be 5 feet from the setback. Most importantly, the originally proposed pavilion was going to be at 13 feet and change in height, and that portion was withdrawn, and the applicant knocked the height of the building down so that it complied with code. So taking everything into account, the board determined that the application would provide a benefit to the homeowner, but would not cause any detriment to the surrounding community, and granted it with those changes. And that's all I have.
Thank you very much.
Is that gonna go to ARC?
I don't know what Peter was saying. I'll check with Mr.
I'm sorry,
Albinski.
what was the backyard, granting rules? You know, I guess it all depends on if it's visible to the neighbors.
But I'll
So
check
much
with Mr.
more.
Albinski to see if
Well, there's accessory structures.
there are accessory structures.
And it
Yeah,
has to go.
so I would imagine it would.
I'll check with Mr. Albinski to make sure.
All right, I'm going to go to Mayor's report. I have a couple of quick things. We have a COVID vaccine event here at Village Hall this Friday. 10 to 2, Ronnie? I can't remember the
10
time.
to 2,
Now
and I just want to let
That's for the
everybody-
new booster.
That's for the
This is the
new,
new booster, and they will
bivalent.
have both the Pfizer and the Moderna available.
And do you have to sign up or you just show
No.
up?
Yeah,
just
just
show
show up and bring your vaccine
And
card.
what's the time?
10 to 2.
So Frank, I did it last week. My wife and I did it at the one that they did at the Matea Center. Very well run, excellent nurses. You have your choice of which bivalent vaccine you needed. And there was a good amount of people there. So I was happy to see that many people getting the vaccine, but it ran very efficiently. I suspect here it'll run pretty well too.
Yeah, and I got a few calls that people were interested and thanked the village for doing this.
And if people can't wait, I think they're doing it again at the DiMatteo Center tomorrow. I just got an email from them like a couple hours
You mean
ago.
the Madison?
Yeah, that one. Yeah, sorry.
So, but I understand that it doesn't matter if you get the Moderna or the Pfizer, they're both, it doesn't
That's
matter.
what the
Doesn't
nurse
matter
who's running the clinic told me.
It doesn't matter what you got first.
Interchangeable.
Yeah, so, okay, that's good.
I've done both.
Do we have
And I had
an,
COVID and I survived.
do we, is there like a limit? So people show up at 12,
I
they're
guess
gonna
until
say,
they
are they
run
out of
out,
it?
yeah.
I
She did say that they seem to be a little bit of a shorter supply of the Moderna. So if that's the one you want, you know, I've been telling people they should come over.
So on Saturday, the Cowneck Peninsula Historical Society is having their annual colonial fair. And on Saturday, October 22nd, Port Washington Water District is doing their pharmaceutical take-back day, which is very important to keep those nasty pharmaceuticals out of our water supply. And lastly,
Where's that, where do you drop on the?
oh, it'll be in my mayor's newsletter, which you'll get. It's at the, I don't have the address here, but it's at the head. It's in the, I'll send you, it's in the mayor's monthly newsletter, the exact times, date, and the location. I forgot which building it is, but it's there. And lastly, I attended the NCPD Police Commissioners Community Council meeting. I will attend it monthly, and I'll continue to advocate for extra police presence in our village. And that's the end of my mayor's report. Any trustees' reports? Claire, it's almost time for the food drive.
I am joining Business Smith School. We're gonna go to JCC next week. The kids wanna have a little bit more of a hands-on experience when they collect the food this year, and they wanna see if they can sort and pack it. I don't really know what that's gonna look like, because I think the administrator needs to meet with the food pantry to understand what their capability is and time commitment. So I should have more next week.
All right. Well, we're here to support them again. I think last year it was,
Such a good
I forgot how many
Yeah, it was
thousands of
huge.
pounds they got, but
Yeah,
it was a great effort.
phenomenal.
So whatever we can do to support that, we certainly will. Ronnie, old business.
Okay.
There is no new business. We had a resident who I was hoping would be here to speak, but since they're not, then we will take that off the new business. And if there's anything else from anybody on the board?
I just have a question about, someone asked me, do you remember the rocks in the right of way?
Yes, Brian loves rocks. in the
What happened with that? Because there's more rocks than ever in the right of way.
We adopted a policy that they
I
had to
forgot
be,
what, yeah.
yeah, we met as a committee for
Yeah.
a while, and then we came to the board with a policy that, again, Ronnie probably has a copy of in the office, but basically, we said they had to be set back.
3 feet, was it?
Depending on the size, they had to be set back from the road, and spaced out. So if there were large spaces in between, they're basically, what we were trying to do is make sure if somebody was walking along the side of the road and need to get out of the road, they could get out of the road. So as long as there was a large space between the rocks, I forget what it was, let's say like 3 or 4 feet, I think they could be along the side of the road. But if they were
Okay.
going to be close together, then they needed to be pushed back about a foot or two.
I'm seeing a lot more.
But we
as
brought
I'm
back
riding
the
around.
policy and adopted it.
Yeah,
So
I
if there
couldn't
are-
remember.
If there are rocks that need to be reviewed, we
Let
would
us-
send out the code enforcer.
Oh, speaking of code enforcement. Oh, yeah, right, right,
Yeah.
okay.
Let's
Executive
executive
session.
session.
Okay.
All right, I'm going to make a motion to end the public hearing. And to make a motion, sorry, I'm making a motion to go into executive session. Correct?
Yes.
I always do this wrong. Do I have a
Would that
second?
be for the purpose of, among other things, considering personnel issues?
Yes.
Yeah.
And not only just personnel issues, but we also have some information on an ongoing lawsuit.
I'll second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Well, thank you, everybody, for coming. Rich, if you want to kill the feed for me. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Just next time you see me outside, grab me. I'll come over to the house. Or I'll come and bother you. You see me walking the dog all the time. Just